Welcome. This is going to be the first round playoff, I guess you can say recap for the entire first round in the bubble season. We're just going to go through how every series went, notable players, notable stats, and etc. So I think we should get right into it with the Eastern Conference. We have Milwaukee Bucks versus Orlando Magic. The series went 4-1, but Armand, how did you think, any standout, stats or players that went from that series?
I think what's funny is Orlando always finds a way to, get an upset. Game 1, for example. They also had the same thing versus Toronto last year. But I never had doubts about Milwaukee in general. I think we both can agree that Giannis was solid as usual for Milwaukee. And on the other side, Vucevic was playing really well. The couple games, he had some 30-point games, so he was the only player that I thought was really good in the series for Orlando overall.
Yeah. This series, it's nothing much to say just because it was a gentleman's sweep. But Vucevic, my opinion, is he's a top 5 center, easily top 5 center. He's insanely underrated.
Right.
He is insanely underrated. We have Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, we have Rudy Gobert, and we have Karl Anthony Towns. And I can easily put Vucevic
Anthony Davis.
Isn't he power forward?
Well, he technically plays center.
Well, I always ranked him as a power forward. That's why I had Vucevic top 5. He could be top 5, but 6th or 5th, I would not have any problem putting him there, knowing that he's been the driving force of the Orlando team. He averaged most likely above 25 points in this series. I checked the stats, and he was an all-star last season. In my opinion, he could have been for past 2 years, maybe 3 years, and he's been better every season. He can shoot the ball, he can block, he's kind of like a bigger, slower version of somewhat of a Kevin Durant, but he can score from everywhere, from 3 or mid-range or even inside.
That's a high praise coming from you.
High praise. I think Vucevic is underrated. I think he could be easy a third option on a championship team. I think he could do that.
Just to clarify, he had 28 and 11 over the series.
Yeah, he averaged over 25 in the series, and he rebounded a lot. And I remember I saw him play once with Chicago, and he just dunked all over Pau Gasol when he was in Chicago. It was a crazy dunk, and I knew he was going to be there for a while, after at least throwing it down on an NBA champion.
It's going to be interesting to see what Orlando does in the offseason because they really don't have an identity. They don't have a first option. They have a lot of solid players, but they also have Mo Bamba, who hasn't really had minutes just because he's behind Vucevic. Fournier is obviously a good player, but is he the player to lead a team? Because I think he's the second option behind Vucevic.
I think
he also got Aaron Gordon. Yeah,
I think he was always somewhat of the second option. But maybe he'd be good as a role player on a championship team. Maybe the guy who stretches the floor, shoots threes, gets you a jump shot if you need it. I think that could be a solid role for him.
It'll be interesting to see how Orlando, how they pick it up in the offseason, what kind of draft choices they make, as well as free agency. I would be interested to see if they could maybe make a trade. Perhaps trading Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I heard he's been in a few trade rumors.
Yeah, I think he could find a pretty nice spot. I don't think Orlando really does it for him. Plus, Orlando would free up a roster spot or a starting spot for somebody like Jonathan Isaac to slide into power forward, and maybe that opens up the small forward or shooting guard spot for some young player that might want to get an opportunity.
Yeah, but let's hope Jonathan Isaac at least comes back. He's had quite a few stretch of serious injuries, and
he's out for next season as well.
Entire next season. That's really unfortunate. Yeah. But for the next, I guess we could just jump over to the next series.
I just wanted to add what I wanted from Milwaukee. I need to see more of Bledsoe and Middleton. I know they had their games, but I want to see them on a consistent basis because Giannis will need the help, as we've seen. Starting first games against Miami, I think they really need to step it up. And against the Orlando series, it wasn't really that consistent.
Miami so far, out of the 2 games we've seen, they've been exposing the Bucks system. They have guys who are willing to crowd the paint, take the hits from Giannis if need be. I saw them, they were doubling him off the wing, so he had to make the extra pass. And those players needs to hit the shots from those extra passes in order for Milwaukee to do so, like win.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It hasn't happened yet. We've seen Brook Lopez play decently. Giannis has been okay, although the fourth quarter in game 1, not what we want to see from a defensive player of the year and MVP. But, you know, it's only 2 games. They could take game 3, which is a crucial game, by the way. But Miami, they've been so far undefeated in the entire bubble run. I don't think they've turned my head, at least, because I knew they were going to be solid off the get-go, knowing how Miami's system is with D Wade all those years and Jimmy Butler, you know, how he is. But yeah, so far I'm excited to see what Miami will do versus Milwaukee in the next few games.
Yeah, we have that series coming up as well in the recap.
Yeah, but so far in the second matchup, in the first round, we have 2 versus 7, Toronto versus Brooklyn. Sweep 4-0. We saw solid all-around efforts coming from Siakam, Van Vliet, Powell, and Lowry. You know, Powell was leading in scoring 1 game, Siakam 1 game, Lowry getting assists, and he gets a lot of charges as well. Van Vliet with steals everywhere. So, in my opinion, it's what you expected from the reigning champs, even without Kawhi. Although in the playoffs versus Boston, we've seen them, you know, we see why Kawhi is Kawhi, why he's solid, and why he's important for literally the playoffs. I think he's a player built for the playoffs.
Yeah. For me, I thought the Nets might actually pick up 1 game from the Raptors. Knowing the Raptors, they usually lose game 1. And just seeing how the Nets have played in the regular season bubble. But to no success, you know, Nets just got overpowered by Toronto in every aspect. Toronto beat the Nets by an average of 20 points. So nothing really much to talk about here other than the Raptors' defense is crazy, as well as their offensive weapons are a lot and they're strong as well. Also,
Karis LeVert, he had 15 assists in one of those games. That's crazy to point out as well.
Yeah, and Brooklyn knew all along this was kind of a waiting season, knowing that KD was out, and after that also Kyrie. But you know, they're a legitimate contender for the future next year, so it's gonna be pleasing to see Brooklyn, you know, go back on top of the Eastern Conference. At least that's what I believe is gonna happen.
Finally, you know, New York, they have a market they can, you know, go to. At least Knicks fans have somewhere they can go, you know. Like, finally, playoff basketball will be back in New York, you know. Maybe they'll reach the championship next season, but we don't know.
Not at Madison Square Garden, unfortunately.
Unfortunately not, but, you know, I'm a little bit skeptical just because Kyrie and KD, they've both had injury-plagued seasons, at least these past few years. You know, KD had the Achilles. He was also out for quite some time before that. Kyrie has had injuries, you know. When Tatum was in his rookie season, Kyrie missed the playoffs. So I'm still a little bit skeptical, but, you know, on paper, the team is stacked with Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Joe Harris, and etc. You know, it's
Dinwiddie, yeah.
Dinwiddie as well, crazy team. But yeah, I guess we can jump over to the next series, which was in another sweep, Boston versus Philadelphia. Jason Tatum proving why he is going to be the first option and maybe as, you know, a future face of the league coming over for these next few seasons once Braun is away. Tatum played exceptional. Brown and Kemba were doing their usual things. Although we're probably not going to see Hayward for quite some time. We've seen how Marcus Smart, you know, picks it up right where he left off. He's that guy I think every team would love to have. But yeah, Kemba, Tatum, and Brown, they were doing their usual things versus Philly. You know, Embiid can't do everything for himself. He was the only bright spot for Philly that series.
Yeah, I think Marcus is that player you love to have on your team and you hate to play against. He just, like, the thing he brings, it just, you can't see it on the stat line, but you know he's there. The presence is felt. But, oh boy, this series. Overall, I think the Celtics played great, even without Hayward, and found a way to score on Embiid against their defense that they played. Also, while trying to contain him, make him settle for jump shots and everything. But the down spot for Philadelphia definitely has to be Al Horford and Tobias Harris. They both combined for 1-3 over the series. And of course they didn't have Simmons, but I think they need to completely rebuild their team because I don't think Harris and Horford are going to cut it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I personally agree. Also, we've seen Joel Embiid with trade rumors. You know, Joel Embiid said, I want to win." You know, all those stuff. Plus, it sounded like he was angry with management. However, Philadelphia did what they needed to do. They fired Brett Brown, of course. However, I think they need to, either trade Embiid or Simmons in order to, have a chance. Because, as we've been seeing, Brooklyn is getting better. Boston's getting better with their young core. Toronto, we'll see. And, Giannis is Giannis in Milwaukee. However, there's been trade rumors with him as well if Milwaukee don't win. But Philadelphia, they need to make an urgent change right now in order to, get better. Because if not, they're just going to get worse and worse. They've been the 6th seed this season. They could potentially maybe go down to 7 or stay at 6 and at best 5. If they don't make changes, just because Brooklyn was the 7th seed. And if they play again with Kevin Durant and Kyrie fully healthy, we could see Philly dropping to a potential Brooklyn matchup in the first round.
Yeah, as we're talking about coaches, I don't know if we mentioned this in the last episode, but now we all know that Jim Boylan has been fired, and Max has been saying that for countless episodes. So here we go. We also got that this offseason.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see who Chicago will pick up, but I want to see Chicago in the playoffs. It'd be time to see them since Derrick Rose and stuff like that.
I don't think. Well, we'll obviously go back to them in a future episode. Examining what they can do for the next season. But I just don't think they're there if they don't, go balls out for like a star player, which I don't think will happen.
Or maybe a trade package. I don't know.
I don't think it's that plausible because they have a lot of young players, and I think development is what they should be focusing on right now.
Yeah, but if they suddenly decided to, hey, let's contend, let's trade for a big piece, do you think Lauri Markkanen is expendable?
His contract isn't that big, so it's going to be hard trading him for somebody who has a huge contract.
Maybe Otto Porter.
Yeah, but I think he's on his last year, so that'll have to happen fast then. But,
okay, well, yeah, we know that. We know that at least. But yeah, next series we have yet again another sweep in the Eastern Conference. Miami Heat versus Indiana, 4-0, and the Heat, they continue to impress. Butler, in my opinion, he's like one of the most underrated players in the league, at least stats-wise and leader-wise, because I've said it countless times, you know how Jimmy Butler is, constant energy, he wants the best from his teammates, and I think, with the drama in Minnesota with Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, I guess they weren't ready yet because, look at what happened to them. Andrew Wiggins got traded, and Karl-Anthony Towns is isn't he one of the worst defending bigs in the league?
Well, I don't know if the stats can back it up, but he's not one of the best, so yeah, I can say that.
Yeah, like he's all offense, but defense wins championships. There's a reason people say that. But however, Jimmy Butler, I guess he found his forever home now in Miami. With the system they have there, he's flourished. And with that comes chemistry, and chemistry takes you an insanely long way. Although Shaq and Kobe, when they played during their championship runs, they hated each other. However, they respected each other and they knew what skill each of them possessed, and that led them to the championship. But yeah, Butler played solid, Bam was fine, and Robinson and Dragic played really well. Dragic, for me, is starting to, he's starting to prove to me that he's maybe like a Lou Williams kind of sixth man, Get your buckets instantly, makes the perfect play, and he's just an overall winner. So
he is, but yeah, he was starting these games because I think Nunn was injured and he's still getting in his groove. So Dragic is their starting point guard, and I really like that. I think that veteran presence is really needed in a playoff game, so I can see why, Dragic is starting right now. But I thought the Pacers might get a game or two just because of how they played in the bubble regular season with TJ Warren. But the Heat completely crushed the Pacers' hopes. TJ Warren was only the leading scorer in one of those games. Of course, they're out without Sabonis, but the Heat just looked overall as a better team. And I don't think that Sabonis would really matter that much. I really like what I saw from Tyler Hero. And, Jimmy Butler has stepped up huge. I think what do you think? I think he's the only guy who can shoot 25% from 3 in the regular season, but still be scorching hot in the playoffs. Which other player can do that?
Not many. Not many off the top of my head. I don't know if you want me to answer that or not, but maybe. Actually, I think I will answer in the playoffs at least. Suddenly getting hot. I'd say probably a guy like Stephen Curry. Although, let's say he has a few bad games, I think he could pick it up immediately.
But what about like Steph Curry isn't a bad shooter. Who has a bad shooting percentage but just lights it up in the playoffs?
Bad shooting percentage, but lights up in the playoffs. Yeah, there's always a few, playoff performers for me. Do you know what Jeff Green averaged during the regular season?
This year?
Yeah, regular season.
It's probably like 6 or 7 points. I'll check it out.
No, but percentage-wise. Because Jeff Green in the playoffs, every time I see him in the playoffs, he always, completes his role and is amazing. When he played in Cleveland versus Boston, had a 19-point game, solid efficiency. In Houston, I've seen him countless times hitting those shots that you need him to hit. But in the I always see him get passed on by teams constantly, although he's shown consistently that he can flat out ball, even though he's still coming up in age.
56% from the field and 35 from three.
Okay, well that's fine. But nevertheless, I always see him in the playoffs, constantly playing.
I think he's that veteran player you want in your team. He can always step up and fill the shoes.
Yeah, but yeah, speaking of not that good percentage in the regular season, but the playoffs scorching hot, Marcus Smart. We saw that just recently as well.
Yeah, that second round, but still, he basically just clutched the whole game by himself.
Saved the game for us in the fourth. But yeah, we have the Heat and the Pacers 4-0. I guess we can now go to the Western Conference, which in my opinion was an insanely, competitive conference. For the West, we have 1-8 Lakers and the Blazers. We got a 4-1 result. Anthony Davis and LeBron. Although I thought they were gonna start a bit slow. Didn't they drop the first game?
Yeah.
They dropped the first game. However, I know Anthony Davis played well, but it was a little bit, lackluster from the rest. I know LeBron did okay, but the others, I didn't see much from the others. Damian Lillard, he was doing whatever he was doing, pulling up from the logo, trying to carry his team. But however, we saw that it wasn't enough. He got injured, right? He got injured.
Yeah, he didn't play the last game.
Yeah, he pick up a knee injury and a finger injury.
Yeah, the finger injury midway through, and I think the knee injury was what sidelined him ultimately.
Yeah, but anyway, back to the series. I've said it time and time again. We see why LeBron is a playoff performer. LeBron was having these triple doubles, high 30-point games. AD is showing that he can perform in the playoffs, at least for a long time, having these 40-point games, 30-point games, dominating everywhere. But yeah, we got to see a lot of showtime with LA in this playoff series. But what do you think Portland should at least do next season now that their season's over? Do you think they can still contend in the stacked Western Conference?
Yeah, I think so. Because with Nurkic, you know how they played in the bubble regular season. They basically crawled their way through, but they still won their games with Nurkic. I think Whiteside has to go. I think they should re-sign Carmelo Anthony. I think that's a nice place, for both parties, for both Carmelo and for Trailblazers as well. He was that player who can play 3 to 4, whatever you need. But it'll be interesting to see what they do for next season. They don't really have that much cap space. I think they should try to maybe look for a trade. I don't know if Rodney Hood is going to be. He'll probably be healthy, so he'll probably be a starting player. But a full healthy season with Nurkic, I think they could try to run it back. Knowing how they got to the conference finals last year, I think it'll be worth the shot. But it's just like if they can pick up 1 or 2 small players, like perhaps if they picked up Jeff Green and he filled those shoes, I think they could go far. But it's just about making the right decisions in the free agency.
Also, we've barely seen a full healthy season from them, so I want to see what happens if they're healthy as well. Yeah. But injuries are a part of the game. There's nothing we can't stop that necessarily.
Yeah, but
however, However, injuries happen. If injuries wouldn't happen, the league would kind of be boring.
But also be fair at the same time as well.
It would be fair at the same time, but yet again, when has there been an NBA season without an injury, you know?
And it also provokes all those what if moments. We wouldn't
All
have
those what if. I'm still salty about Derrick Rose, but I'll take it out at another time. But yeah, yeah. I guess we can move on to the next series. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the Lakers. I didn't get a chance.
My bad.
I wanted to talk about them having a third scorer.
Yeah.
Which they didn't have because Kuzma. Kuzma is probably the player you would think of being the third scorer. But in the postseason, he's averaged 10.8 points, 36% from the field, and 30% from three. And we won't talk about Danny Green because that was just atrocious. But what I think they need to try to fix is, their scoring other than LeBron and AD, which hasn't been really that consistent. And I think they will need to find that if they want to win the Houston Rockets in the next series. It only gets tougher from here, in my opinion.
It only gets tougher. However, they're going to need that, shot creator, They're going to need a guy who can create his own shot. I think Kyle Kuzma could do it, but I don't know why it hasn't specifically worked
on a consistent basis. That's the problem, though. He has to be consistent. Caldwell Pope, he's had his catch and shoot nights, but, not really that consistent. But I think if you have Anthony Davis and LeBron, you don't need to bring it on a nightly basis, but it's nice to have that third player if either LeBron or AD doesn't pick it up.
Yeah, they have to be there when it matters, be there when it counts necessarily, because there's gonna have a time when they're gonna need that third guy.
Yeah, especially going deeper in the playoffs.
Also, I'm just wondering if they kept Ingram and they gave away Kuzma instead, do you think Ingram would have been a far better fit than Kuzma?
Yeah, I think he would have been a starter because Kuzma's kind of like a power forward, so it's kind of hard to slot him in since AD plays power forward. But I don't think we would have seen that big of a growth from Ingram if he stayed in Los Angeles. So I think it was great for Ingram to get out of there.
I know.
Be his own man in his own team, at least for a while now until Zion picks it up.
I know, but I'm sorry, but knowing what we've seen from Ingram this season, and if we knew he was going to have somewhat of similar jump, do you think he would have helped LA propel them to, they're guaranteed going to win the playoffs? Or
so you're technically asking me if I want a 22-year-old most improved player all-star or a player who's been trashed this whole season. I'm taking Ingram. I think he would probably
No, but
help.
I know it's somewhat of a dumb question, but do you think, do you think Ingram is that, that third guy they really, really need? Or do you think Kuzma is enough for them to propel?
I think Kuzma is enough, but he hasn't really shown it. Ingram's way too good for a third option, but I don't think they would have done the trade if it was Kuzma instead of Ingram, because we know Ingram's much younger than Kuzma.
Yeah, so that makes sense. That's a 100% dumb question on my part, though. But yeah, should we go on to the next series?
Sure.
All right. We have the Clippers versus the Mavericks, which was one of my favorite series in this matchup. We have the one and only Pandemic P shooting like it was a concert tour date. 313 here, 211 there. You name it.
PG 13%.
You name it. Paul George has got it. Less than 20%, all that stuff. He had that one good game. However, I was really paying attention to him when he had that one good game. He was mentioning that stuff when he was in a dark place. And, I feel him, I feel him. When you're in the bubble constantly, all you have is your phone. You're not with your family. I understand 100% why it's tough.
Even though I think they can bring in their family starting soon or even now. So
yeah,
maybe it'll help some teams. I think that's a discussion for the future.
Fred VanVleet got his, I saw his kids come in the hotel. Oh, that was a sweet, nice to see. Nice to see. But, Kawhi Leonard for the Clippers averaged I think he averaged around 30 points per game on solid efficiency.
33, yeah.
Jesus Christ. But Kawhi Leonard, he's literally built different, okay? Kawhi Leonard, board man, gets paid, all that stuff. The quiet assassin, whatever you want to call it. He's unintentionally funny almost all the time. I saw this one play where he was going to give the ball to Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson was trying to do something, but he completely messed up, and You know, Kawhi was like, why did I pass it to this guy? But yeah, Kawhi Leonard, I think he's going to be key for the Clippers running forward. Like, do you think if Kawhi has a bad game, they're screwed, knowing that they're still very deep with their lineup?
Yeah, I think if Kawhi has a bad game, they're pretty much screwed. Because Kawhi's that top guy and Paul George is kind of taking that second role. If Paul George doesn't really like have a great game, I think it'll be tough for the Clippers. But I just want to say, what do you think? When Kawhi ends his career, that's probably going to be the last time you ever hear of him. Imagine that.
Imagine that. I would love to see Kawhi Leonard probably be an ESPN analyst or a commentator or something like that. Just try and listen to him with his deep ass voice. You know, analyzing.
You probably wouldn't say
stuff
nothing
like that. No, I want to see Kawhi Leonard try and crack a joke on ESPN commentary. I'd love to see that. See what happens if Kawhi did stand up or something like that.
Not in this dimension. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Although people are saying that he's a funny guy, you know. But you know, we'll wait and see. But yeah, for Dallas at least, Luka Doncic is proving why he's going to be an MVP, at least candidate, starting next season. My man's was averaging almost a near 30-point triple-double, hit the step-back game winner in the buzzer, and literally shook the entire world with that step-back. He's carrying the Dallas Mavericks team on a sore ankle, by the way, and without KP. But yeah, I was also happy to see role players stepping up, such as Seth Curry and Tim Hardaway Jr., and as well as Trey Burke for that Luka game. Although I want more consistency from players like Tim Hardaway Jr., he was not good on Game 6. I see how, you know, those shooters around Luka has helped them flourish. Who do you think, at least Dallas, needs to bring in, or what do you think Dallas needs to do to improve, at least from next season?
It really depends on if Tim Hardaway takes his contract or not. He has a player option, that's what I know. If he doesn't pick it up, which would be surprising, I would love to see them try to gun for Danilo Gallinari, maybe. Because, you know, he's that consistent third option. You know, much better than Tim Hardaway. Because Tim Hardaway can be either really hot or really cold. I think Gallinari gives you that consistency that I think the Mavericks need. So I think if anything happened to them, I think this would be the pipe dream. And I would love to see that happen. But like me overall watching the series, what I saw is it was lots of beef and lots of fights, mainly between Morris, Harrell versus Luka Doncic. But Luka is just a magician, even with Porzingis out. That kind of derailed their chances. But we always said Dallas could fight with anybody, and they've shown that. Losing in a close Game 6 where they managed to come back. As I said, it'll be interesting to see what they do in the free agency and the draft. I like their chances moving forward.
Yeah, and just one more question before, like, I've had this on the back of my mind. Knowing how Luka has been performing, although, yes, he is a generational talent, although he's been performing like this, do you think, like, he's been performing like this since, you know, like, since the rookie season. Do you think the European bias should calm down a little bit?
I think it already has, because as we've seen in the mock drafts, we have the Israeli guy, Dina, what's his name?
Denny Avicii, something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people say he's like, should be going top 1.
Yeah, we know.
The team that doesn't pick him will probably regret it. As we've seen in the history, people that don't pick the European players, you know, at least the last few years have, you know, really been let down because Luka, KP, even DeAndre Ayton, who's from the Bahamas, they've been great players.
I remember Amari Stoudemire, he was vouching for Denny Avicii. That's where I heard, you know, if you don't regret picking him, stuff like that. I remember King of the Fourth Quarter, he said a video about it, and he said the Amari Stoudemire thing. But yeah, I saw a few videos of him. He looks like a solid prospect. I haven't seen enough to judge him if he's number 1 yet. I'll probably look at a few highlights coming up to the draft.
Yeah, we'll have an episode before the draft of like all the prospects and everything.
Probably like good fits for each player, stuff like that. I'm curious to see where LaMelo will go. I think the Knicks would be a great fit for him though, but I don't think he's gonna slide that far down.
Well, this draft is really weird because no workouts nor anything, at least so far. So not a lot of sample size to see what each player can do. So you could technically pick all-star in like the mid-20s and get a bust in like the lottery.
I know.
This is gonna be a crazy draft.
At least with the draft, you never know. Talent over the years has been improving, and we've seen that with a player like Devin Booker, who dropped down towards the end of the lottery. Michael Porter Jr., 14th. Bol, he was solid during, preseason and the bubble as well. But we'll just see how talent goes. Lorenz Dort as well, who will show up later. Showing that you don't need to be a lottery pick to flourish in the league.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, next series, which was, in my opinion, the best series in the first round, we have the Utah Jazz versus the Denver Nuggets. This reminded me of, I think it was the early 2000s, we saw Allen Iverson and Vince Carter. They were just exchanging blows, having these ballistic games. Absolutely crazy, somewhat of a 1v1. We saw Murray and Mitchell, they were dueling throughout almost the entire series. Each having 50-point games and 40 and 30-point games. I know Murray averaged around 31 and Mitchell averaged around 34. And Jokic, he was solid as well. But yeah, this was also the 12th game in history where Denver came down from 3-1. Do you think, although they played really close versus the 6th seed,
12th game for Denver or 12th game overall?
In history, 12th game to come down from a 3-1 deficit.
Oh, all right.
I think it was in the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, do you think, although they were in a close series with Utah, do you think they're gonna struggle more or less the next round, or do you think they're gonna probably play just the same?
Oh, I think they'll struggle. They're just really tired. You could see. I don't know if you saw the post-game interview with Jamal Murray.
we play in Thursday?
We play Thursday, only one day off. So yeah, they're
Damn.
completely gassed. And you could see that in the final game.
It was
I agree.
Low-scoring game as well. 80-78, I think.
Yeah, but I agree with you that this was the most exciting series in the first round. Basically a Mitchell versus Murray show. 50-point games left and right. Actually, Mitchell broke the record for most three-pointers made in the series with 33. Steph had 32, as well as Murray.
Didn't he have 31?
No, Steph had 32. Both Mitchell and Murray had 31 coming into Game 7.
Okay.
Mitchell scored 2 3-pointers, breaking the record, and Murray scored only 1, so he's tied with Steph for number 2. Actually,
but he could break the record in the second round.
No, it's for a series.
It's for a series. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, my bad.
But funny you mentioned the series with Vince Carter and Allen Iverson, because actually that was the last time, or the last series in which the last shot could decide either you win or you go home.
Oh my.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago.
Are you talking about in the first round?
No, overall in the playoffs.
How about Kawhi's shot last season?
If he misses, it goes into overtime.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah. The Conley shot, if he makes it, they move on. If he misses, which he did, they lose. So yeah, that's a crazy stat.
Do you think the outcome would have been different if he gave it to Mitchell earlier on? Because Mitchell was open on the other side of the court for quite some time.
I saw a lot of analysts say that. I think the time was winding down. It would have been tight if to see if he actually got it off in time or not. It's kind of hard. I think if Conley would have scored that, we wouldn't have this debate. But it's really tough. What do you think about it?
Personally, I don't fault Conley for taking a shot because time running down, a lot of emotions running through your head. What should I do? What should I do?
It was basically open, so that's not a bad shot at all.
Plus it rimmed in and out, so you can't fault them for that rimming in and out in a tight environment. like that. So I won't fault Conley for taking the shot, personally.
Well, I think Denver has really been missing Barton. You can see they're playing a lot of other players. Michael Porter Jr., the most notable. They got Harris back recently, but will that be enough to beat the Clippers? I don't really think so. Well as Utah. Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, I think they should trade Harris. You know, he's been a little bit of a downslope these past few seasons. I think next season, in my opinion, should be his last season before they should maybe trade him, because he was injured for quite a little while, and he was also, he's been downgrading a little bit. His points have been dipping a little bit.
I think it's just because the team is deep, but I see he's great fodder for trade because his contract is so huge. So you can maybe you can pack him up in somebody else for maybe a Drew Holiday, who I think would be a perfect fit for Denver. So his contract would be great for that. I think that's what I have for Denver. For Utah, I know they will sign Mitchell to the max extension. I think they should try to get a veteran for the mid-level exception and try to run it back with Bogdanovich. I think they could be a serious threat, so I think they should run it back as for what they should do in the offseason.
Yeah, I think at least a few more seasons with a healthy Gobert and Mitchell should work.
I think Gobert is only one season away from his extension coming up, and he's eligible for the Supermax. If they pay him a Supermax, I think that team is doomed.
I do not think Gobert is worth a Supermax just because of his offensive, limitations.
Exactly. Yeah.
You need to shoot. You need to shoot if you're gonna be successful, at least in today's NBA. But Gobert, I think he deserves an extension, all right, at least with how he's playing, but not a Supermax. I do not think he deserves a Supermax, personally.
Yeah.
All right, then we have the last series, which was, in my opinion, the most heartbreaking one. I was rooting for OKC. I predicted OKC to win, although they didn't have Westbrook. Game 7, Lorenz Dort was the youngest player and the first player to go undrafted to have 30 points in a Game 7. Lorenz Dort, I've watched him a lot during this series. I've been really interested in how OKC was going to play this playoffs, and he's going to get a bag. He reminds me of a Tony Allen, but since he's so young and the way the NBA is playing today, he has room for growth. He can shoot, He has time to develop that shot. I saw this one game, he was 0 of 8, 0 of 7 from 3. And then this game, he hit so many of those threes that he could have hit the previous games. So I can see Lorenz Dort easily, lasting in the league for 15, maybe 20 years because of his elite defense alone. But other than that, we have Chris Paul. He was leading in clutch scoring, I believe, in the playoffs. Gallinari and SGA were playing solid as well, and Schroeder was completely fine as well. He was also good. But for Houston, Harden was a little bit up and down, but we got to see Aaron Gordon. He played solid for a few games. Jeff Green was good. I think Danuel House was okay as well. Well, Russell
Covington had a clutch Game 7.
Covington was also solid. I remember it reminded me watching him when he was in Philly, when he was that 3-and-D glue guy that every team would love to have, such as a Marcus Smart kind of guy. But Russell Westbrook, he came back and he didn't do that well, did he?
Nah, he had 7 turnovers in Game 6. With the crucial one in the end where he passed the ball and it went out of bounds when they were down by 2. But yeah, I mean, you can tell he's a little bit rusty still. But I don't think the Rockets are a worse team with Westbrook. It's just that they need to find, how they click.
It takes time to groove. It takes time to, help Westbrook get in the groove because he was injured. And when you haven't played with him for an extended period of time, you can see how it takes time to, get used to revamping your system, because instead of having one quote-unquote main option with Harden, now you have 2 solid, former MVPs and stuff like that.
I think OKC... Yeah, go ahead.
If OKC managed to make their system work with Houston, I could see them being a big, trouble matchup for LA. However, I believe Anthony Davis is going to feast on those boards like the entire series, just because I can't see PJ Tucker guarding Anthony Davis necessarily.
Actually, Houston won their only matchup against the Lakers when they first had the trade for Covington. So that'll be interesting to see. But my only problem with Houston is that they're a bit inconsistent at times. They can win versus tough teams, but then suddenly they lose to Charlotte or somebody.
I remember, yeah, same here. I remember they lost to the Knicks as well.
Yeah, and I hopefully they're just ready for what awaits them in the second round, which is definitely not an easy target.
LeBron is a freak of nature. Like, he's 35 and still dunking on people. You know, I promise you this: the league is gonna miss him when he's gone, because he ever since Miami, you know, he was always that guy that you wanted to vilify. You know, and he's always that guy, you know, that brings excitement every time you see him and stuff like that. You know, he's that quote unquote it guy. And I remember I was watching the series, and Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, they were doing commentary, right? And we see this one foul, and the guy was, you know, hugging him around him, and you know, they took it as a normal foul, but they were discussing whether it was going to be a flagrant or not. And then Mark Jackson's answer was, "That's greatness," because someone was, you know, hugging LeBron as a foul. Then he just says, you know, "That's greatness," you know, that's greatness in the flesh right there. You know, I'm like, come on, man. We know it's LeBron, but come on. It's impressive, but you know, a little bit excessive just because, you know, it's LeBron. But yeah, I believe LeBron is gonna have an exceptional playoffs. You know, first season in LA, it's gonna be huge playoffs, I believe, for the Lakers. You know, for the first time in 7 years, they're finally back. You know,
First season in the playoffs for LeBron.
First season in the, you know, did I say
it's
first
his second? Yeah, it's his second season in LA.
No, but first playoffs.
Yeah.
With the Lakers with LeBron. That's what I was gonna say. But yeah, personally, I believe LA is gonna do solid. I don't know if I think they maybe get them in 6 or 7, just because we could see Houston doing well with James Harden. But anyway, I think that's it. We've covered up most of the games. With the second round, a few games have come by. Do you see any potential, you know, breakout stars or breakout players in the second round?
As you talked about, I think Marcus Smart has to play a huge role because Hayward's out, and he did that in the second game against Toronto. We've only had the semifinals for the Eastern Conference, so we haven't seen anything yet from the Western Conference. Any players that could stand out? I'm hoping it's Kuzma. The Lakers desperately need somebody to score off the bench, or just, you know, a third scorer. So I'm hoping it's Kuzma. Other than that, it'll be interesting to see, you know, the second round overall, as well as it'll be interesting to see when all of our points add up, to see which one of us, you know, gets the win from the contest we have. But yeah, so far I think all of our decisions have gone through, except for the Houston OKC one. I think we both bet it on the Thunder.
Yeah, we both bet on the Thunder. Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, I think the scores and how each team wins were different, so that maybe will make a difference when we add up all the scores. But you know, that's still a far way ahead because we still have to wait for other individual rewards, as well as the All NBA teams, and as well as you know, for the season to end. So that'll come in October. But in the future episodes, we're just going to discuss you know, the upcoming rounds.
Yeah, we'll at least, you know, talk about it in the foreseeable future. But this episode at least was just the first round. You know, for me, the playoffs have been worth waiting for. We've had beef, we've had 50-point games, we've had all this drama. For example, the Phoenix Suns, if you know what I mean, all that stuff. But yeah, I guess we're just gonna wrap it up. You know, take care.
Yeah, peace.